All right. We are talking about complex numbers. Complex numbers are where we are combining a real number, so like an integer, with an imaginary number or a coefficient with an imaginary number next to it. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we see something like complex numbers. So we're going to go ahead and just write this as A plus BI. It'll look something like that, where A and B are going to be numbers, and then you'll see the I attached usually to that second term. Okay, so on numbers 1 through 6, it's asking us to simply simplify. Okay, so we're going to treat the I just like it were any other variable. In fact, let's go ahead and write that on our paper. Treat the I like any other variable, at least at this point. Okay, so what I mean by that is we are now thinking of it as adding some binomials, just polynomials, multiple terms. Okay, so since we are adding, think the addition sign distributes and it keeps the signs after it the same. Okay, so remember, we talked about this rule a while ago. When adding, signs stay the same. And when subtracting, when you see a subtraction sign, the signs after it will change. Okay, so the first polynomial always stays the same, so we can just rewrite it without the parentheses. -1 plus 8i. Okay, well again, with an addition sign, the signs after, the terms after keep the same sign, so this is a positive 8, so plus 8. Positive 7i plus 7i. Okay, and now we just combine like terms. So I can combine i's and i's, just like x's with x's, y's with y's. Okay, so this is positive 8 plus 7. This is going to give us a positive 15i, and I'm writing it second just because our form up there, usually we write the term with the I second. Okay, and then I combine -1 plus 8. That's going to give me positive 7. And there we go. That is simplified. Okay, number 2. So we are adding again, which means the sign after the addition sign stays the same. So the first guy will always just be the same, -4 minus 5i, keep the same signs, so positive 5 plus 5i. And now I combine like terms. Okay, so let's go ahead and just combine our constants, the numbers without the i's. -4 plus 5, it's going to give me a positive 1. -5i plus 5i, those actually just turn into 0, right? So 0i, which we can just write as 1. We don't have to write 0i, because those basically cancel out. So simplified, it's just 1. Okay, number 3. We are adding again, which means the signs after it stays the same. So I can always just rewrite the first guy, 4 minus 3i, and it stays the same. This was a -2, so it stays -2 plus 7i. Okay, now let's go ahead and combine our like terms. We'll do constants first. 4 minus 2 gives me positive 2. -3i plus 7i gives me positive 4i. And that is simplified. Okay. Number 4, it looks a little different. So we see some addition signs in here, but they really don't change anything. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite 8i plus 4i, just rewriting those guys without their parentheses. And then this addition sign tells those signs to stay the same. So -7 and -5i. Okay, so again, a little different. We just took the parentheses off those first two terms. Okay, so now we can go ahead and combine like terms. Well, my constant is my only constant. It's the only term without an I attached. So that stays -7. And I have 8i plus 4i minus 5i. Okay, so let's do this piece by piece. 8i plus 4i is going to give me 12i. 12i minus 5i is going to give me positive 7i. And that is simplified. Okay, number 5. So now notice the sign in the middle is subtraction. Okay, so whenever you see a subtraction sign, it's going to distribute and actually change those signs, because the reason it does that, negative times a negative is what's going to turn that to a positive. Negative times a positive is going to change that to a negative. So that's why those signs change. But again, the first guys, they stay the same. -2 plus 4i. Again, negative times a negative turns into +1. Negative times positive 8i, negative 8i. Okay, let's combine our like terms. We'll do our constants first, so the terms without an I. -2 plus 1 is going to give me -1. And 4i minus 8i gives me -4i. And there we go. Okay, number 6. So again, I have this random I in front that's in parentheses, but there's no sign in front of it that would change it, so it just stays I. This addition sign keeps those signs the same, so -4 minus 5i, and then just this random +3 at the end. Okay, so again, that I really doesn't need the parentheses because nothing's changing it. The addition sign tells those signs to stay the same, and our +3. So now let's go ahead and combine like terms. So I have -4 plus 3. It's going to give me a -1. And then I have positive I, or positive 1i, minus 5i. So 1 minus 5, -4i. Awesome. Okay, so that was adding and subtracting when using complex numbers. Again, complex numbers is where we have like a number plus a number with an I attached. Okay. Numbers 7 through 10. It's asking us to simplify, but using a method we've already talked about. So we have FOIL or the box method. Okay, so notice, sorry, let's get into focus. Notice that there's no addition or subtraction sign in the middle. Okay, so whenever anything is right next to each other, it means we're multiplying. Okay, so let's go ahead and make that note on our paper. We're multiplying these guys. So when multiplying with two terms, binomials, if you remember, we're going to use the FOIL or the box method. Okay, or another method if it looks a little differently. Okay, so I personally like FOIL. That's really just where we're distributing. Okay, so remember FOIL. Let's remind ourselves, what does FOIL actually stand for? So we have F-O-I-L. F stands for first. O stands for the outside terms. I stands for the inside terms. And L stands for the last terms, meaning this is the order you are going to multiply them in. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at number 7. Okay, so F stands for first. So my first terms are 5 and 3. Multiply 5 and 3. It's going to give me 15. Okay, then I have O, my outside terms. Okay, well my outside terms, that means on the outsides. So 5 times 5i. Okay, again, we're treating it just like any other variable. We're going to run into a new rule, but for now, treat it just like if that were an x. So 5 times 5i, positive 25i. Then we have I for inside. Well, my inside terms are 6i times 3. Okay, again, 6i times 3, positive 18i. And then L, last terms, 6i times 5i. This is where we're going to run into a new rule. But again, we're just going to multiply it like those were x's. So 6i times 5i gives me positive 30i squared. I squared because I times I. Okay, here's where our new rule comes into play. Whenever we see an I squared is actually equal to -1. So we're actually going to change this to -1. So this is like saying we have plus 30 times -1. Okay, that I squared turned into -1, always. Okay, so then we can just rewrite this out and combine like terms. So I have 15 plus 25i plus 18i. And now I combine like terms. Okay, so first of all, what is 30 times -1? It's just going to give me -30. Okay, so now let's go ahead and combine like terms. Okay, find your constants, so the terms without i's. I have 15 minus 30. 15 take away 30 is going to give me -15. And then I have 25i plus 18i. I'm going to double check this in the calculator. It'll be 35 plus 8, 43. So plus 43i. And again, it looks like our complex number. Two terms, one without an I, one with an I. Okay, let's go ahead and use FOIL for number 8 again. Okay, so first terms. F in FOIL stands for first, so 8 and 3. Multiply 8 times 3, that's going to give me 24. 24. Okay, then I have my outside terms. 8 times 5i, positive 40i. Then I have my inside terms, -7i times positive 3. Well, that's going to be -21i. And L, my last terms, -7i times 5i, -35i squared. Okay, remember that I times I turns into I squared. Okay. So remember our rule, this I squared turns into -35 times a -1. Okay. So really, what's -35 times -1? It's going to be plus 35, positive 35. Okay, then I can just rewrite the rest of it out. 24 plus 40i minus 21i. And I can combine like terms. So let's do our constants first. 24 plus 35. That's going to give me 59. And then we have 40 minus 21, which is going to give me positive 19i. And there we go. Okay, number 9. It looks a little different, but we're still multiplying. They're all right next to each other. So I'm actually going to I'm not going to use FOIL or the box method because technically we have 3 pieces that are being multiplied. So with multiplication, it doesn't matter which order you go in. Okay, so I'm actually going to multiply just these 2 terms first. Okay, so I have -4i times -4i. Well, -4 times -4 gives me positive 16. I times I squared. Okay, well then we have our rule. Okay, whenever you see that I squared, turns into -1. Okay, 16 times -1 is -16. And now I'm just going to write the rest of it out. Okay, so then it's being multiplied by our excuse me, our other piece, 8 minus 4i. And now we can just distribute using the simple distributive property. So negative 16 times 8, it's going to give me negative 128. Negative 16 times negative 4i gives me positive 64i. And that's it. We really didn't have to use FOIL. We just kind of had to multiply piece by piece and then remember our I squared rule. Beautiful. Okay, number 10. Since we've used FOIL twice, let's go ahead and use the box method. Why not? Okay, so remember with the box method, we're going to draw our box. Okay, because we have two binomials multiplying by each other. Okay, so I'm going to put my first binomial on top, negative 3 plus 3i. You don't have to put the plus. It's already assumed that it's positive. And then I'm going to put my second binomial down the side, positive 6 times, or plus 7i. Okay, now we just line it up and multiply everything inside. Okay, so I have negative 3 times positive 6. It's going to give me negative 18. Okay, positive 3i times positive 6. That's going to be positive 18i. Negative 3 times positive 7i, negative 21i. And then 3i times 7i, it's going to be 21i squared. Okay, before we go into our rule, our I squared rule, let's just write this out in the order that we solved it. Okay, so I have negative 18, positive 18i, minus 21i, and positive 21i squared. Okay, now let's worry about that rule. We have our I squared rule. Okay, whenever we see that, so this is going to turn into 21 times negative 1. Okay, well 21 times negative 1 gives me negative 21. I'm just going to rewrite the rest of it. Negative 18 plus 18i minus 21i. And now I can go ahead and combine like terms. Okay, let's do our constants first. Negative 18 minus 21 more. Okay, so think you're getting more negative here. This is going to be negative 39. And then 18 minus 21 is going to give me negative 3i. And there we go. Those are your notes for today.